Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boys.
Coached up. We did find out last week that we won't be having tackle football here in the summer. So it's something that we obviously still want to keep forging ahead. We got a great presenter tonight, two presenters tonight, Coach James Colzie III and Brandon Dubbs, both at SMU, St. Mary's University in Halifax. They're going to talk to us tonight about some coverage, defensive systems, specifically coverages, and really talking about that back end. That we really want to be able to cover all aspects of football, and this is going to bring our defensive side of the ball up to the forefront. Colzie's had a great career, both as a player and a coach. And, I haven't actually met Coach Dubbs in person, but, man, I've heard nothing but great things about you, Coach. Sent guys his way, great things from Coach Colzie, my former players as well. So, I think it should be a great in-depth, knowledgeable night. Don't be afraid, as Coach Colzie said, don't be afraid to ask any questions. He's the only presenter for tonight, guys. So we're not pressed for time or anything like that. So for sure, if you have any questions, make sure to, pop in and chime in, and we'll be sure to have a great night. Okay? Colzie, thank you.
Well, first and foremost, Marcus, thank you. It's and I see Carday on here on the call as well. I get a chance to see you guys every morning when I walk in the office, looking at the pictures of the 2001, 2002 national championship teams, and for all the other coaches, thanks for allowing us to discuss something that I hold dear to my heart, and that's defensive back play. I brought along Coach Dubbs, who actually handles our defensive backs and co-DC for us, and also holds the title of special teams coordinator. So, we want to kind of let you know how we do things here at St. Mary's. We've been extremely successful, over the last 4 seasons in the back end, where we've been ranked we've been ranked top number 1 in the country, in the top 2, in the top 3, and a lot of different pass categories. But just kind of want to give you some knowledge of what we do. And again, it's not. I would say it's not what everyone should do, but for us, it's something that we, like I said, we take pride in, and obviously, this is how we do things here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, here at St. Mary's University. Coach Dubbs, are you able to get the film going? So first and foremost, guys, I know when Marcus came and spoke to me, we talked about coming in, just talking about coverages and systems, and just so you guys can kind of get an understanding over the last probably 8 to 10 years. Since I was at University of West Georgia, I've had the opportunity and the honor to travel across the country, NCAA, where I'm every weekend I'm flying, I'm going these places and going that places, and being able just to speak about corner play, special teams, or whatever the case may be. So forgive me, because a lot of times when I'm speaking, I'm extremely demonstrative. I'm moving around a lot. I'm doing a lot of demonstrations and things of that nature. So hopefully I can contain myself here on this Zoom, because this is something, like I said, I hold dear to my heart. We speak about having passion and energy on a daily basis here at St. Mary's, and so hopefully everyone learns something, and hopefully we can answer whatever question that you may have at any given time. So just kind of a little bit about myself, my past, and where I'm from, where I've been, and where I'm at now. I'm born and raised in a real small town, Miami, Florida, and that's where I'm from. For us, that's the mecca of high school football for some, and And that's where I came. That's why I had the opportunity. I played all 3 sports, played football, played basketball and baseball. Had the opportunity to accept a full scholarship for football and baseball to go play at Florida State. Played 4 seasons. I started my last 2 and then spent a year and a half with the baseball team at Florida State. And obviously, if you know much about the 90s and Florida State in the 90s, we were pretty good. We had a lot of very good players. We had a lot of very good defensive linemen, offensively, the Work Duns, the Andre Wadsworths, and whatever the case may be. And we were also very, very good on the back end. Where I was a starting corner for 2 seasons. Played in 2 Orange Bowls, played in 2 Sugar Bowls. Played for 2 national championship games, and we beat Nebraska my first year, and then we got beat by Florida my my last year as a senior. So I always wanted to be a coach, regardless of the fact. Whenever I always felt when I was done playing, I was going to be a coach. My dad's a coach. He was just recognized as getting to the state of Florida High School Hall of Fame. He was a basketball coach my entire life, and so. When I was done playing, I always felt that, yes, when I was done, I wanted to get into coaching. So I was lucky enough after about 3 seasons of being done playing, I was actually honored and given the opportunity to start a program at FIU. I went there. I was the corner coach, and I was the assistant special teams coordinator. I only handled the return men. So spent about 4 seasons there. I didn't think I was learning as much as I needed to. And I got an opportunity to go back to my alma mater and be back with Coach Andrews and Coach Bowden. So I went back there, became a grad assistant. I did 3 seasons there. And at Florida State, you get the opportunity as the defensive grad assistant, you get the opportunity to coach the corners. So, then I felt that even though I was coaching the corners at FIU, I was still coaching the corners at Florida State. But, to this day, I felt that was my biggest learning experience, as not just as a defensive back coach or as a corner coach, but ultimately as a defensive coordinator. So, I did my 3 seasons, coached a couple first-round draft picks, coached a couple second-round draft picks, had another guy that ended up going to the Broncos. So, if you guys know much about Florida State, which I know some of you guys do, is, it's a lot of corners come out of that place. And so, in my opinion, the best of all time, Deion Sanders was one of the guys to come out of Florida State. So, I left there, then had a little journey to a Division II school called Valdosta State, where, again, coached defensive backs, special teams coordinator, and we ended up winning a national championship. I was there for 1 full season. We had some success. I moved on, and I became the defensive coordinator at another Division II school called the University of West Georgia, where I was the defensive coordinator, the defensive back coach, and also the special teams coordinator. When you kind of get into some of these Division II programs, you're doing a lot. You're wearing a lot of hats. And so was there for 4 years, left there, and then went to another Division II school called Southern Arkansas, again, where the recruiting coordinator, special teams coordinator, defensive back coach, was able to have the opportunity to coach an All-American. He's now one of the best players in the CFL, a young man by the name of Don Unamba, who's now playing for the Red Blacks. So Unamba was my starting corner. He was an All-American. And so, again, having good players, having success, was given the opportunity to go to Simon Fraser. My wife's Canadian, so we kind of jumped at the opportunity to go and go to Vancouver. Again, guys, I was a little bit ignorant in that regard because I didn't know much about Vancouver. I didn't know much about Canada, except that my wife was from Windsor, Ontario, and that's all I really knew. And but again, got a chance to go to Simon Fraser, learned a bunch. Had a couple guys that went to the CFL there, and guys like Lamar Durant, Casey Chen. And spend a year. And that was kind of a little bit of an obstacle year for me because that was the first time our head coach was let go. We didn't have the success. And during that time, I was kind of going through my study permit and not having a full-time study permit meant that I needed to leave Canada. So out of a job for about 48 hours, was called by the defensive coordinator at a junior college called Coffeyville, went there for an entire season. And we went 8-2 and had a great football team. We had 11 guys when I was as a defensive coordinator. We had 11 guys that had the opportunity to get Division I scholarships, going to Troy, going to schools like Arkansas State, Iowa State, South Carolina. So we had amazing success. And I kind of joke about the kind of talent in the junior college ranks because that year and the year I was at Coffeyville, we had 2 losses. We lost to a team called Hutch, and we lost to another team called Butler. And at Hutch, their starting tailback was a young man by the name of Alvin Kamara. So just imagine us trying to tackle a guy like Alvin Kamara, who we all know is one of the best players in the NFL. So that was one reason why we lost, because we had to face him. And then the second game we lost, like I said, we lost to a team called Butler, was another JUCO, and their starting tailback was Chris Carson, and then their starting wide receiver was Michael Gallup. And he, obviously being a guy starting running back for the Seahawks, and I think Michael Gallup is still with the Cowboys. But again, just kind of talent that we faced in that junior college area, in that junior college ranks. A lot of good players on our end, and a lot of good players on their end. So again, got a chance, had success, got an opportunity. I didn't know there was a lot of moving parts that were kind of going on in Canada, where Coach Neal was getting ready to leave Calgary, and he got an opportunity to go to UBC. And at that same time, UBC was also looking for a women's head soccer coach. And I spoke about my wife earlier, but my wife's one of the best coaches in the country. And I often say that I'm actually the second best head coach in my house, because she was given the opportunity to be the head women's soccer coach at UBC. At the same time, Coach Neal was given the head job at UBC. So my wife and Coach Neal, my wife bothered her and bothered him. And then Coach Neal ultimately gave me the opportunity, had an interview, and he ended up giving me the opportunity to be his defensive coordinator in 2015. And obviously, the rest was history in that regard, because we took over a program. Coach Neal took over a program that was 2-6, and we ultimately go in there and we end up upsetting Calgary. We beat St. FX, and then we end up upsetting Montreal in the Vanier Cup. And for whatever reason, everybody thought I could coach, and given the opportunity to get a chance to come to St. Mary's. And so being a part of 3 national championships as a player, as a coach, and ultimately landed at St. Mary's in March of 2016. And, I'm thankful every day. I often feel that I know for a fact that I have the best job in youth sports, no matter what anybody says. I love the city of Halifax. I love the players that I have. And, I was granted the opportunity to sign a new 5-year deal. So, I'll be here for another 5 years. And it's important to me, because if you kind of look at my history, I was always at some places only a year, 9 months, 10 months. But being able to put my roots here and watching my 5-year-old, who's now he's in junior primary, and we left UBC, he was 2 months. Now he's 5. And, Coach Dubs, he could tell you, yesterday, he was at practice yesterday, and just watching him run around and, he tapping people on the butt and all that stuff. I don't know where he got that from, but, it's just a matter of just being able to lay my roots and be here and watch guys matriculate through the program, watch guys graduate, and, it's something special. But obviously, being at St. Mary's, a storied program, a tradition-rich program, and getting the opportunity to be around some of the best players in the country and getting the chance to watch them grow and mature daily is what motivates me to get up every morning to come work here at this great institution. As we mentioned, I've been around some good people, and I want people to understand that what I'm getting ready to talk about and things that we portrayed and the things that I'm saying and talking about technique and leverage and all this stuff that you're going to hear myself and Coach Dubs talk about, I didn't invent the wheel. I didn't reinvent it. A lot of the things that I've used is from some, in my opinion, big time coaches in my life, guys that have molded me and have taught me and that I have had great conversations with and sat down with. And it's hard for me to talk about stance or talk about how I want our guys to stand and where I want our guys' eyes to be and the leverage aspects. If I don't get a chance to message these 5 coaches or these 4 coaches and one of my and the guys I consider my hero. But I talk about Coach Andrews. He was the guy who coached me and pushed me. And often when I call him or talk to him, it brings me back to when I was playing. And if any of the success that I've had in my career, a lot of the things that I've done or we do now is a direct reflection from what Coach Andrews spoke to me about or talked to me about or we had meetings about. And at times he would cuss me out about. And he was a defensive coordinator at Florida State from 1984 to 2009. And I don't know anybody in the country who has more wins than he does. I don't know anybody in the country who has produced the most NFL cornerbacks. And, he was he was pretty tough, downright. He held us accountable. But, he's for me, I often, a couple of times I've had Coach Dubs on the phone call, and when I talk to Coach Andrews, and he's the ultimate motivator. Like I said, I can't talk about DBs without stressing how much he's helped me and guided me and molded me. Another guy is Coach Steele, who's been the defensive coordinator at Auburn, Clemson, LSU. He was a linebacker coach for the Carolina Panthers. And when I was a GA at Florida State, he's ultimately molded some of the things that we do defensively as a whole. And so, like I said, I had to make sure I mentioned Coach Steele. And then obviously, my Uncle Neil, who for me was my hero. He was a two-time All-American at Ohio State, first-round pick for the Oakland Raiders in 1975, and he had a very, very good career, won a Super Bowl, and often, anytime I ever had any questions growing up or as a young football player about football, I didn't have to go very far. It was just making a phone call to my Uncle Neil, and we always talked defensive back play, and then most importantly, we always talked about how to be as a human being. So, now recently, guys that have continued to mold me, a guy like Coach Mark Washington, who I've spent the last year just talking about defense and just talking about defensive backs, because believe it or not, playing in the NCAA and the NCAA game, it's a lot different than, not as much different, but there's some differences. So, Coach Washington has kind of elevated me over the last year and a half about, some of the differences in the Canadian game. And obviously, we know him as being one of the best defensive coordinators in the CFL, one of the best players that kind of ever played in the CFL. And so he's helped me a bunch. And then obviously Travaris Robinson, who's now the DB coach at the University of Miami, had a great career, DB coach at Auburn, DB coach at University of Florida, DB coach at South Carolina. So him and I speak on a regular basis just about, the ever-changing model of how defensive backs play. How we played in the middle, in the early 90s, in the middle of the 90s is a lot different than how we play now. And so we make sure we stress that and just kind of talk about all the subtle things that we need to change, because as a player and as a coach, those are two different models, and the times have changed. The way offenses are attacking defenses have changed. So, again, I couldn't do this presentation without mentioning these 5 coaches, just because, like I said, some of the things that you're going to hear the majority of the things that you heard came from these 5 people. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned these 5 more so. Guys that I've been quite a few places, and I've had a lot of success. And normally guys that move around and kind of update or get better jobs or move on to better jobs, it's because you've had success. And a lot of times, we had a lot of guys that were going to play in the NFL or CFL, regardless of whether I was going to coach them or not. They had the athletic ability, they had the talent. Some of these guys that are playing in the NFL, Tyrell Adams, the Alex Armas, these are guys that I had at West Georgia. Tyrell Adams was a defensive back. Alex Armas was a linebacker. So I had the chance to help mold them. And now they're doing really, really successful in the NFL. You got a guy like Patrick Robinson, who I coached as a GA at Florida State, who's currently in the league. And then you have quite a few guys that are in the CFL making waves, the Larry Deans, the Taylor Loefflers, the Nick Termansons, the Lamar Durants. These are all guys that I had to coach at Simon Fraser and UBC. And, again, we had success there. But part of that success was these guys are really, really good players. And in my opinion, they were going to make it with or without me. I was just lucky enough to have the ability or be in the right place at the right time to coach these guys that are currently playing in the NFL. Here's some additions where you got a guy like Marcus Sales, Derek Jones. Marcus Sales was another defensive back that I had at West Georgia who's worked his tail off to get himself to be one of the best defensive backs in the CFL. Derek Jones was my starting corner at Simon Fraser, and he's been a mainstay for the Blue Bombers. You got the Reed twins, who were 2 of my 2 linebackers at Simon Fraser, and again, good players, right? For whatever reason, I had the opportunity to coach them, and I get a chance to enjoy their success as they continue to make headway and make waves, playing professional football, whether it's in the CFL and the NFL. And so, I think probably the biggest guy that I had the opportunity to coach, and in my opinion, I feel that I helped mold it was, Antonio Cromartie. My first year as a GA, like I said earlier, as a corner coach, at Florida State. When you're the defensive GA, you coach the corners. And but this is a prime example, guys. I can be honest with you. Whether I was coaching Cromartie or my 5-year-old Maxon was coaching Cromartie was going to get to the NFL. But we always talked about the details. We always talked about hand placement. We always talked about leverage. And these are some of the specific details that we're going to talk about tonight, along with Coach Dubs, who's going to get knee deep into some of the things that we stress with our guys on a daily basis. So here we go. Some things that, we bring to the table, our coaching philosophy. And these are things that not just that we don't just stress to our defensive backs, but as an entire defensive unit, on the other side, the offensive unit, and just in the totality of our football team. So, ultimately, I know we say that we're coaches, but in reality, we're teachers, right? Day to day, right? We got to be able to grab our guys and teach them. And even though, we got X's and O's and lines and dots, right? When we get into that meeting room, we're sitting there. It's just like a classroom. From the 5th-year guy to the 1st-year guy whose head's spinning, right? We got to find a way as teachers to motivate, guide them, and make sure that what we're saying, right, they understand. And if they don't understand it, we have to find other ways to motivate them. So, we got to be able to teach. We got to be able to motivate. Now, while we're doing those two things, we must also give them the tools to reach the potential that they're trying to get to. So, for example, we got a 5th-year corner by the name of Justin Julian. He's been with us for 4 years, and he's a guy that's desperately trying to get to the CFL. Right? He's got the tools. He might not be the biggest guy, but he's great on special teams. He's great in the pass game. He's one of our guys that plays corner. Then he plays our star in some of our sub packages. He'll play money in some of our sub packages, and then push comes to shove, we'll move him to boundary corner in some of our sub packages or some of our base defenses. His motivation is going to be completely different for a 1st-year defensive back who's just trying to figure out what the difference between our white coverage and our red coverage. But while we're in that meeting room, we have to motivate and we have to make sure that both those guys are reaching their potential that they're reaching on a daily basis. We sometimes we feel a little bit naked as coaches when we don't get a chance to meet with our guys on a daily basis, right? We're structured. We try to meet with them. We try to correct on all the film that we have. And so we'll watch film, make the corrections, and then we'll give them tip sheets based on the corrections that we've made, right? So meeting with them and talking to our defensive backs, giving them subtle reminders, giving them the big picture are all things that, in my regard, is our coaching philosophy with our defensive backs on a daily basis. Secondly, right, now we've got our group. Now we have our players, our field corners, our boundary corners, our halves, and our safeties, and all of those things, right? And we want to establish a culture that we are a family, right? Everything that we say, we want to make sure that they are loyal and they're respecting the room. And when we leave the room, they're loyal to what we're saying. We walking the walk, right? Everyone says that, okay, coach gets in there, he talks. So when he leaves, are we respecting that? Are we speaking the same language, right? So, we talk about, you're teaching when they start saying what you're saying. Well, that's exactly what we're saying. Like, hey, we want to make sure that the verbs that we use when we're on the board or when we're in the meeting room, they're saying to each other on the field, right? Ultimately, we're in the meeting room with them, and it's up to them to transfer what they're hearing in the meeting room to the field. Well, if the message you're saying isn't clear, then it's not going to be clear on the field. So we really, really strive on making sure we're saying the exact verbiage. For the last 6 to 7 months, Coach Dubs and our defensive line coach, Coach Lothian, we've really, really stressed on making sure that our jargon, our trigger words, our hit words are the exact same. And you'll hear us in the meeting rooms, and I'll say I'll make a mistake and say something that, as a staff or as a meeting room, that's not what it's supposed to be. We'll correct it. We'll correct each other right away, right? Because we want to make sure that what we're saying to our team is the exact same thing that's on our install sheets, on scouting reports, in the meeting room, during walkthrough, get set on the field. When we work our corrections, is in the tip sheets, and then is restated again once we meet with them again. So, we want to make sure that we communicate on the field just like we communicate with them in the classroom. Well, obviously, the Zoom meetings are kind of a different animal right now. We're slowly but surely getting used to them, right? We've, I know that in Ontario, not a lot's kind of been going on as far as the football aspect, but, for us, since August, we've met, we've practiced. It is a little bit different. It has taken some getting used to from the coaching staff, but we know we have to Zoom. So we know that our meetings are that. We know that we have to improve how we meet. So we can't use it as an excuse. This is how we meet. Therefore, we must be better. We must be detailed, right? So, even though it's a Zoom, we got to make sure that we take these meetings as if we are standing in front of them in our meeting rooms or in the classroom, right? And ultimately, as it says in the bottom, we want to make sure that they are buying what we're selling. Whatever we're saying, as I said, jargon must be the same. Our message must be the same. So when they're talking to each other, their message and their communication is the same as well. All right. So, all right. There's not a time when I'm making up coverages or I'm making up our plan or whatever the case may be. I always ask them something about how we want to make something. So for example, we have a call that we call Buzz. And it's a coverage that's mixed in with a stunt, right? And then behind it we'll play a kind of a thirds, and then the other side we're kind of playing a man, right? So when I say make them teachers and include them in your plans, well, I draw it up, right? Okay, Adrian Green, what do you want to call this coverage? What do you want to call this? All right, so came up with that word. Now, Adrian Green, you came up with the call. Give me the signal for the call. How do you want the signal to be? So then he comes up with the signal. So now I can rest assured that Adrian Green is going to be completely bought in to Buzz. He's made it, he's named it, and he's made the signal for it, right? So part of us is, again, making them the teachers, include them in their plans, give them some ownership, give them some accountability to what you're doing. Now, again, as a staff, we sit up there and draw. We sit up there and put stuff on the computer. Coach Dubs does an amazing job setting up everything on our install sheets. But whenever we do something, I always want to make sure that everybody in our defense is involved in what we're doing. Right? I mentioned earlier, defend what we are doing when we are not around, and I mean coaches and players. Right? They got to be loyal to you when you leave. They got to be loyal once you sat up there and you've met with them and you've talked to them. They have to be loyal to you when you leave, right? So when you talk and you leave, are they defending what you're saying? Coach says we got to do it this way. That means we have to do it, all right? Well, coach says, hey, I want us to be outside. That's where we got to be, right? So ultimately your game plan, how you coach them, how you do this, how you do that, they're the ones that are going to be doing it. Therefore, they got to defend all of the things that you're asking them to do. Now, as I've gotten older, right, and since 1999 or 2000, I've had the opportunity to coach. I hate it when I say I've been doing this for 20, 21 years because it makes me feel a little bit older. But players are different, right? Players are different at this stage. We have to understand that. And I kind of gave that example when I was talking about Justin Julian as this fifth-year player who's been with us for 4 years compared to our first-year player, right? So after you understand that there's differences in how you need to coach them, then that's how you need to attack them. You have to be able to attack them differently. You have to be able to motivate them differently. So I can't coach my field corner and my boundary corner the same. I know that for a fact. They're different species, they're different animals, and how they handle themselves accordingly, I have to make sure I do that, right? So as a coach, we must know that. As the defensive coordinator, we must know that. Defensive back coach must know that. We got to handle this guy one way, got to handle that guy the other way, because ultimately you want them all to play. You want them all to play at their best, right? So, and that's the biggest thing in regards to me, that knowing that they are different. We understand that. We talk about that all the time. As a staff, let's talk about this guy. What motivates him? How do we need to handle him? Next guy, what motivates him? How do we need to handle him? How do we get these guys to play at their maximum and at their peak level? Our defensive philosophy, right? We are a pretty multiple defense, right? We have a lot of packages. We have a base. We have a Panther package. We have a nickel package. We have a psycho package. We have a savage package. What else am I missing, Coach Dub? Miss something else? We got the rich. We got what else we got, Coach?
Got dime.
Got dime. So
ball.
yes, 8 ball, and the whole thing about everything. And when I say we're multiple, for us, that's about trying to get the best 12 on the field. You know, we know in the offensive game, which we all know football is an offensive game. They're putting multiple people on the field, right? So basically, whatever they present to us on the field, based on down the distance, we want to make sure we have the best 12 on the field for every single play, right? Our goal line package is hella different. It's very different compared to our package when it's 2nd down and 12, right? And everyone in the stadium knows that they're passing the football, right? So we're multiple because down the distance and personnel dictates a lot of the stuff that we do on offense, right? So ultimately, defensively, all right, we want to make sure that we affect the quarterback and the center. That's really all I really care about. I want to make sure the quarterback is having a hard time, and we want to make sure the center is having a hard time. We know the quarterback is responsible for the reads. We also know the majority of the good football teams, their center is the one who is calling the protection. So on the back end, we want to make sure that everything that we do looks the same, right? We don't want the quarterback to see any chinks in the armor. We don't want a corner to be standing one way, we're in man. We don't want our free safety being with the wrong leg up when we're playing zone. So we want to make sure that everything that we do, we look the same, but ultimately we want to make sure that we affect the quarterback and affect the center by causing confusion. On the back end, we always talk about causing havoc, whether we are playing man-to-man, whether we're playing zone, we want to be aggressive. We want to put our hands on guys, and we want to make sure that whatever they do at their best, whatever we look at every week, what they feel that their best is, we want to make sure we take that away. We look at their routes. We look at their run game. We look at all of those things, and we spend hours. We have dots. We have targets. We have all of those things that we do on a weekly basis because we want to take away what you do best, and we ultimately want to make you play left-handed, right? Whatever it may be. If you like to play, if you want to be in the short game, that's your game. You're going to do quick game. We're taking that away. If you want to if you want to be a team that wants to attack down the field, you're going to be taking that away. We're going to take away your 5 best runs. We're going to take away your 5 best passes. So if you're going to beat us, you better use number 6, number 7, and number 8 in your offensive deal. All right, so that's our deal. Defensive philosophy, best 12, making sure we're causing havoc, affect the quarterback, affect the center. We're going to be an extremely aggressive bunch, and whatever you like to do best, we're going to make sure we take that away because we want to make sure that you play left-handed. Our scheme, like I just said earlier, we want to make sure everything to us, when you watch us on film, right before the snap, everything's going to look the same. All right, so we have a lot of different coverages. We have coverages where we're playing man one side, we're playing zone the other. We have coverages where we're actually pressuring, where we're trapping behind. We have man-to-man. We have basic man-to-man pressure, right? Everyone knows that you got to be able to play man-to-man with 0 pressure. We play man-to-man with the safety high. We play man-to-man with the safety high and the robber. We have numerous things where we are in coverage. We have numerous things where we're pressuring. We have numerous things that even though we are pressuring, there's help. So we have 2-man coverages. So ultimately, like I said, again, we want to make everything look the same, but we want to make sure ultimately, especially on the back end, that we're causing confusion with the quarterback. As Coach mentioned here, we talk about disguising with a purpose. We have set alignments for our corners, 7x1. We have set alignments for our halves. We want to be 10 yards deep. We have set alignment for our free safety. We want him to be at 11 before the snap, right? Our alignments, when you look at us, they're going to be the same. When you go 32, 23, alignments are going to be the same. But when that ball snaps, we are moving. We're pressing late. Halves are coming down. Free safety is going to the middle of the field. Because like I said, we want to confuse the quarterback right before the snap. Now, as we said, we want to confuse the quarterback. The biggest thing that we talk about in our defensive back room is that there's no easy throws, right? We want to be in passing lanes at linebackers and DBs. We want to make sure that that quarterback's going to have to be perfect to just complete a pass. So whether we're going to be on the hip, whether we're going to be locking and leaning, whether we're playing man-to-man, whether we're playing outside leverage, The whole point of this whole thing is that quarterback's going to have to be pretty damn good to beat us, right? So as we're disguising, as we're pressing, as guys are moving before the snap, on top of that, we want to make sure that there's no easy throws for what that quarterback is trying to do. All right. As I mentioned earlier, we just talked about the packages and things of that nature, right? So cycle package for us is 4 D linemen, 1 linebacker, 7 DBs. Tiger, 3 D linemen, 2 linebackers, 7 DBs, right? So for us, Savage, same thing, right? We got ultimately 5 D linemen, 7 DBs. So we, as a staff and as a group, and as I mentioned, talking about making sure we have our 12 best, depending on the personnel, depending on the down and distance, right? We will put an enormous amount of DBs on the field when it's passed, right? When it's run, we're a little bit more into our base package where we're running Panther. But when we get a team in second down and long, whatever we're putting on the field, the next play after second down and long should either be punt, because they got a punt, or it's got to be extra point field goal because we just scooped and scored, or we picked off a pass and ran it for a touchdown. Second down and long is our down. So we take pride in that. We take it personal. There's a percentage that we have to make sure for the season. We want to make sure that we are 80 to 85% for the season in these specific packages, because like I said, second down is our down. And ultimately, like I said, we got 7 DBs in the game. We should win. We should win that race. We should win that war because we know you're passing and we got 7 DBs in the game. All right, our philosophy, defensive back. We want to be ball hawks. Simple. Ball's in the air, it's ours. Nobody else's. If you so happen to catch a pass, it's because we allowed it. All right? We want to be a physical group. No matter what we're doing, we're putting hands on people. Whether we're in press, whether we're jamming, whether it's both. When you come and play us, we're going to put hands on you, and we're going to be extremely physical when we use our hands, not just in tackling, but when it's time to jam. Always being fast, we want to play extremely violent. All right, that's the one thing that we talk about. We want to play fast and we want to be violent with our arms whenever we're making tackles. We want to know our opponent, who we're playing, what they got. Like I said, we want to take the 5 best runs, the 5 best passes, and our guys are going to get a gluttony of notes about who the team we're playing and what they do. They know our coverages are based on what that offense is doing, and we continue to give them information daily about what we're trying to do to opponents. Okay, we want to press. All right, we know, in my opinion or in my experience, we press a lot, just because for the simple fact that a lot of the teams that face other teams throughout Canada don't press or practice how to get out of press. So a lot of the things that we do when we are playing man-to-man or we're coming to press late, we do that a lot, right? And that's something that I think gives us an advantage, because when teams play against other teams, whether it's in the Can West, whether it's in Quebec, whether it's AUS or any of the Ontario Conference, not a lot of teams do it. So they don't get necessarily every week or every day get a chance to work on how to get off a press. Well, on our end, why do we press so much? Because when we press, we take away the route tree, right? When we press you, that route tree that all these offensive has, that's out the window. So to us, when we press, we're going to get slant, we're going to get fade, all right? And then it's my job as a coach to coach you how to play the press, how to play the slant. It's my job as a coach to teach you how to play the deep ball, how to lock and lean, how to get on the hip, how to be violent with your hands, how to press with your hands, whether you're outside or inside. And then ultimately, we know in the Canadian game and also in the American game that we must be able to handle the adjustments, the different alignments, the different formations that you're going to see on a daily basis. So we talk about all of those things. When we're at 32, when we're going against a team that likes to run a lot of 32, when a team likes to run a lot of 23, have tight ends in the game, go to 41, we always have an answer. We always have an answer. So, teams like to get in 41 just to see what you're going to do. Well, sometimes we'll play man-to-man backside. Sometimes we'll play 2-man backside. Sometimes we'll blitz the corner, right? So we make sure that we always have adjustments for personnel. We make sure we always have adjustments for formations. We make sure we always have adjustments, not just for the entirety of the game. We adjust first quarter. We adjust second quarter. We adjust third quarter. We adjust fourth quarter. But again, these are all things that we must show in our film. We must show them weekly. We must work with them weekly. We must walk through things weekly just so guys have the game experience to understand and handle a lot of these things that we throw at them on a weekly basis. Lastly, for me, I would be remiss if I didn't get my DB coach to kind of speak about some of the specifics that our guys are asked to do on a daily basis. He's going to give you a lot of information that we do. I asked him not to give too much because Marcus Noel's on the call, but Coach Dubs gave it to him anyway. So we'll just have to scratch off some of these things, Marcus. Okay, don't screenshot this stuff. You hear me? Because we might mess around and see you in the darn what do you call it? UTEC Bowl. You hear me? You understand? If I hear the word slice on the sideline, I'm coming to get you. You understand me?
This is all. It's all in house, Coach.
I'm just saying now. If I hear slice on the other side of the field, I know what that means. Okay. All right. Hey. So again, guys, this is my DB coach, my co-DC, and also our special teams coordinator. You know, my first year at St. Mary's, I coached the DBs. I tried to be the defensive coordinator. I tried to be the head coach, and I wasn't doing either one of them right. So when I got done my first year after that, you know, I felt that I needed to make sure I brought a guy in to handle the DBs and also handle the special teams, and I wanted to make sure I got a guy that I could trust, that I knew he was going to coach him hard, and ultimately he's been with me ever since. You know, it was a hard sell to get him here, former Mount A player. And he was at Mount A at the time, and but we got a chance to get him here, and he's been with us since 2017. And you know, he's about as tough as they get, and I'm extremely excited and happy to have him here coaching our DBs. Our guys come in, they learn. He gives them all the information needed to be successful. And the one thing I don't really say much about him, and I don't say this to him directly because I don't necessarily want him to get a big head, but the biggest thing I love about him is that he loves our guys. He loves our players, and I know. Day in and day out, our guys are getting the best in the country from the defensive back position. So, you know, we talk a lot, we speak a lot. You know, often him and I will spend a lot of time on some of the things that we do. We'll go with it, and I know our guys are like I said, getting the best. So I want to make sure that Coach Dubs comes in, talks to you a little bit about some of the specifics in our regards to our defensive backs. But Coach Dubs, take it away.
Appreciate it, Coach. So real quick, I wouldn't, you know, like Coach talked about earlier, you know, thanking the people before him. I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for, you know, the two guys that you see at the bottom of the screen. And then, of course, Coach Colzie, you know, at Mount A, I had the pleasure of starting my coaching career for Kelly Jeffrey. You know, he won the U Sports Coach of the Year in 2014 after we went undefeated in the conference. And played a tough McMaster team in the Mitchell Bowl that year. But, you know, he gave me my shot. You know, he gave me my opportunity, and I'll be forever grateful for that. You know, and I also had the pleasure of working for Scott Brady. I actually played under Scott and Kelly, and then started coaching with them. But, you know, the thing with working for Scott is, you know, he demands a lot of you. And it kind of kicked me in the butt and taught me how to work hard, you know, and he taught me a lot about work ethic, you know, taught me a lot about details. And, you know, I take that with me today. I'm very detail oriented, and you guys will see it in some of the things that we talk about today. You know, and a couple other guys that I didn't mention in photos, but Gaetan Richard, you know, the current offensive coordinator at Western. You know, I don't know how many times I saw that guy passed out on his keyboard simply from, you know, working so hard. You know, Chris Hopkins, he's a recruiting coordinator, running backs, offensive line at Carleton. Again, taught me about work ethic, what it means to work hard, and I got to see it. You know, so I'm forever grateful for working with that staff. And then ultimately it got me here with Coach Colzie and the great staff that we have here. And, you know, hopefully we can get ourselves and get St. Mary's a championship that it's been longing for. But let's start talking some football. So today, you know, and Coach Marcus mentioned, you know, possibly coming back in 3 weeks. I think this would be a great, you know, start to building on something that we could talk about in 3 weeks. So today I'm going to talk about fundamentals. You know, you can't ask them to be detailed, you know, in their coverages unless they're detailed in their fundamentals. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about fundamentals, and then I'm going to go into teaching, how we teach our coverages, because I think it's very important to let you guys know how we teach it, because we do have so many. And once we let you know how we do teach it, you'll understand why it is easy for our guys to understand it. And then we're going to talk about their ability to learn our coverages and why that's important. And then I will touch on our Psycho and Tiger packages just a little bit. So the fundamentals of defensive backs, stance, everything needs to start the same. We want everything to look the same, but you want it to start the same every time. How do you know you're going to have a good day? Well, you're going to start every morning the right way. If you have a bad morning, well, then the rest of your day is probably going to be a little choppy, right? You want to make sure that you start your day the right way so that the rest of your day goes according to plan. Then we're going to talk about movement. You can't just ask a DB to move. You can't ask a DB to break. You can't ask a DB to lock in. You can't ask him to turn and run. You need to show him how to do that. You need to show them how to do it. And they need to be comfortable doing it. So asking them to do it is not the issue. Showing them how to do it is what we need to make sure, we teach our guys. And then reaction. The biggest thing I tell my guys is trust your eyes. Everything we do is based off of a reaction. At no point are we ever going to guess on anything. We're going to put our eyes where they need to be. You're going to see what you need to see. And then ultimately, you're going to make a decision based on what you're seeing, right? That's the reaction. And then you're going to go. And then ball skills, as a DB, you do everything you can to put yourself in the right position. Once you're in the right position, you hope that you get an opportunity to make a play. Well, when that opportunity is presented, can you capitalize? And that's where the ball skills comes in. So it's important that you work all of that before you can even get into, playing man, playing match, playing cover 3 hold or cut or whatever variations you have. It's important that we take care of the fundamentals. Okay, so stance. When do you work the stance? We're all coaches. We all know that there's never enough time in the day. There's never enough time in practice. So when do you want your DBs to work the stance? The off season? Before practice? We're going to talk about our ABCs in a minute. We don't do it during practice, right? We get all our guys out to practice. They're on the field 10 minutes early and they're doing it themselves. That's when they should be working on their stance. All my first year guys, we introduce the stance to them the first day, and then I tell them, go home and work on it. And I'm able to tell by looking at them the next day if they've been working on it. And it's very simple, but if you ask them to go home and work on it and they come back and they've worked on it, at least you know that they're trying. If they haven't, well then, the effort's not there, and, we can talk to them about it. The thing I've learned, especially being here at St. Mary's, with the different athletes that we get here, is that every stance is going to be different. You've got your longer athletes, you've got your shorter athletes, you've got your longer legged, high hip, short torso athletes, you've got your longer torso, shorter legs athletes, right? Every stance is going to be different, but there are constants. Okay, you want to make sure that you've got good knee bend. You want to make sure that you've got good bend in your ankles, good bend in your knees, good bend in your hips. Okay, and then we always tell them to be comfortable. It's not a natural position to be in a defensive back stance, so we want them to be comfortable in it. Well, how do you get comfortable? Again, they have to work on it, and you have to encourage them to work on it. Okay, and comfort does not mean poor bend in the ankles, poor bend in the knees, poor bend in the hips. Okay, comfort means getting in that right position and it beginning to feel natural. You do it enough, and ultimately you will be comfortable doing it. So, like I said, every stance is going to be different. And if you look, we've got a bunch of our guys here lined up, and you've got your long leg, high hip athlete right here in the stance. Then you've got your shorter athlete right here, and then you've got your longer torso, shorter leg athlete right here, right? All of them look different, and that's okay. But what you want to encourage, again, is the good knee bend, the good ankle bend, right? Flat back, shoulders back, eyes up, pads over shoulders. Sorry, pads over toes. Okay, again, here, good knee bend, good ankle bend. Pads over toes. Same thing right here. Right, so making sure that you recognize what kind of athlete you have playing DB will help you change their stance and help them fix their stance so that ultimately they are in something comfortable. Then after stance, go to movement. Again, we can't just tell them to move, right? We have to show them and tell them how to move, right? So when we talk about movement as a defensive back from your stance, immediately, most of the time, unless you're in an open stance, most of the time you are going to be backpedaling. The first step should always be with that back foot. And I'll show you guys some film in a minute. But that first step should always be with that back foot. You want to get that step to get you going. Okay? It's so important. Okay? And when I show you the film, you'll see why. But it's so important that we keep our pads forward, okay, to counter our guys losing our balance. Okay, when you start pushing yourself backwards, it's very easy for your shoulders to go up and all your weight to go backwards. You do that, you will lose your balance. So it's important that you keep your pads forward, right? Keep a good center of gravity, right? To make sure that we don't lose our balance. Okay, we want to make sure that our heels are never touching the ground. They can scrape grass, but they can't be in the ground. All the pressure should be on the balls of the feet when you're pressing off. Okay, again, you're allowed to scrape grass. That's fine. But you want to make sure that these guys are not sticking their heels in the ground. If their heels are in the ground, that means their weight is behind them. If their weight's behind them, okay, they're going to lose their balance. If you make sure that they're using the balls of their feet to put all their pressure, then their weight will be forward, combined with their pads being forward. The other thing with movement is that you want to make sure your pad level stays the same. I always tell our guys, adjust your feet, not your pads. When we talk about tempo pedal and matching the tempo of the receiver when we're pedaling, you adjust your feet speed, but your pad level stays the same. So this is just a quick screenshot here of what that first step should look like. We get everybody in the stance that we're asking for. That first step, when we do this, right, we're really telling them just exaggerate. Exaggerate it so that we build the muscle memory so that we're stepping with that foot that's back first. Okay, the other thing you want to make sure of is that they're not false stepping with that front foot. Their first movement should be with that back foot going backwards and then pressing off that front foot. If you see them adjust that front foot at all before they do anything, that's a false step. It's a wasted movement. We all know in football, it's a game of split seconds, right? Well, that wasted movement just cost you a split second. When we talk about reaction, again, don't guess. Preach to them not to guess. It's so important that they trust their eyes. They trust their eyes and they know what they're seeing. Okay, well, how are they going to know what they're seeing? Well, we got to tell them. We got to show them what this is. What's a slant look like? What's an in look like? What's an under look like? Routes, there's not just a million routes. There's a slant, an under. There's specific routes in football. They need to know what that looks like. They can't just be expected to know it. Okay? When we talk about our transitions and working our 45s and 90s, 135s, 180s, okay, we never do anything off of voice commands. Okay, everything they do is based off of a reaction from a coach. Simply because when you're covering a receiver, you're not going to break based off of him saying something. You're going to break based off of him making a move, right? You're going to react to what he's doing, right? Coach always says you can't hear fingers and you can't see voice commands, right? So you can't hear someone pointing. So as a DB, if you need to get your halfback to the flats, well, if I'm the corner and I'm behind him, he can't hear me pointing. So what's the point? You got to tell him what you're doing, what he's doing. Sorry. And on the flip side, guys, again, right? The DBs are not reacting to voices out there. So they shouldn't be reacting to voices in drills. Okay? Again, just reemphasize trusting your eyes. You know, the one thing that I actually told my guys yesterday, I've got a pretty young group right now that I'm coaching. But when you trust your eyes and you know what you're seeing, make your decision and go with it. We want to play fast. And when you start second guessing yourself, you know, not being sure of what you're seeing, it's going to slow you down. Right. So if you continue to encourage them to trust their eyes, right? They know what they're seeing, trusting their eyes. Once they make a decision, tell them to go with it. And then ball skills, guys, you can only find the ball when you're in position to do so. There's nothing worse than a DB that gets beaten man and he's 5 yards away from his man and he looks back for a pass. You know, there's no point on that. Now, how do they know when they're in position to play the ball? Again, it's our job to teach them. Hey, we need you on top of the route and outside. Once you're there, now you can look through the receiver for the football. Okay, we need you underneath, right? We need you underneath on that inside hip. Once you're in position, now we can look back for the football, right? But you can't just tell them be in position to look for the ball. They need to know what that position is. Am I high and outside? Am I high and inside? Am I underneath and inside? Am I underneath and outside? Okay, have an attacking mentality. Don't wait for the ball. Receivers go up for the ball. We have to go up for the ball. Okay, make sure they know to become the receiver. Okay, finish. You know, one of the coolest plays I saw, and we talk about it here, you know, is when that receiver is going to the ground with the football and everybody thinks it's a catch. The DB lands on top of them, continues to rip at the ball, punch at the ball, and then it comes out. It's the receiver's job to secure the ball all the way to the ground, which means we have the opportunity to get the ball out all the way to the ground. So our rule is if the receiver goes to the ground, we go to the ground with them. Make it difficult for them. Okay, and then once you get the ball in your hands, find the near sideline and score. So I'm gonna put on some film here, show you guys some of the ABCs that we do. Yeah, basic fundamentals that hopefully we see translate, you know, on the film when we have another one of these. But again, I hope, you know, that you guys can use some of this, and again, just to teach the fundamentals of defensive back play. So this is how we teach stance. Okay, the first thing that we do with our guys here is myself as the coach, I'm the ball. Okay, and we always want our foot away from the football up. So you'll see right here, I'm to the left of all the players, to their left, to my right. Okay, so I should see every single one of them with their right foot up. Now, to make sure that they continue to think and they're applying what we say, right? Just make sure their brains are always on, they're always focused. We will walk around, which immediately makes them having to switch their feet. So you'll see right here, now I'm to the right of all the players, which means all of their left foot should be up. Okay, now to teach the first step, again, to encourage them to move backwards. Okay, we're just going to give them a go call, give one go call, and they're just going to take one step. Immediately, they should be resetting their foot right back in that comfortable stance. What I look for here when I'm watching this is that there's no change in pad level. Okay, when that foot, all I should see from them is their feet moving. Goes back and it goes right back into position. Then I'll reset them. Now the guy to the far left there, he was lazy the day before, so I just made him stay in his stance while everybody else got a break. Okay, again, foot away from the football needs to be up. And then I encourage 3 steps. Again, making them start to move a little bit quicker. Again, not changing our pad level. Not changing our pad level. but encouraging that first step, very, very detailed about it, but we can't expect them to be detailed on the field when they're doing their coverages if they can't even do their stance, their start, right? The details of that. So the next part is now the back pedal. Okay, so we're just going to get them to pedal for 5. Okay, I'll say go. They will pedal for 5. The thing you don't want to see here is a false step. Right? I shouldn't see anybody with that front foot moving right before their back foot moves. Okay? Again, encourage the exaggeration. Step with that back foot. Make sure that there's no change in pad level. They're not getting high with their pads after that first step. Then they'll reset and we'll do it again. Right? Just encouraging that first step, transitioning into that pedal. Okay, so after we've done that, now we go into our ABCs. Okay, this we work everything from an extended back pedal to how we break. Okay, the best thing I like about this is when we do this, it allows me to coach and watch the pad level, watch their feet, right? Make sure that they're moving their arms. I don't have to worry about starting the drill. The next person in line, you'll see Max right here. The next person in line will give the go call for this play, for the player in front of them, sorry. So what you'll see Jamil here do is you never want to turn your back to the football. Again, the coach is the football, right? So I'm to Jamil's left, never wants to turn his back to me. Why do we do this spin? Well, a couple things. It makes them think, right? They got to be focused, right? Never turning their back to the football. 2, it encourages balance. Okay, it's not easy to do a spin like this. It is if you practice it, but it encourages these guys to have good balance. 2, right? It makes them get into a comfortable position from an uncomfortable movement, right? So we're asking them to get into their stance while spinning around. Again, it's an uncomfortable movement. It's not natural, but we encourage them to do it so that they can get in the stance they need to. Again, it helps with balance. And then we go right into what we just did. That first step is with that back foot and they pedal down the line. And we will do this all the way through. Again, the person in line, right? The next person in line keeps the drill going so that as coaches, we can coach. You know, we get more out of it. The players get more out of it. So on. The biggest thing you just got to realize is when this last person gets to go, you're going to have to do a form. Okay. Then after that, we'll come back. I'm not going to make you guys watch this, but we'll come back. Again, applying the coaching points that I just saw from the guys on the first rep, now telling them to do it before or as they are doing it. The other thing here is now they get to spin the other way. Okay, so again, working both sides, and we get the ability to coach them on the things that we saw the first time through. Then we will go to our weave. And when we talk about weave, it's all about leverage maintenance, right? If we're getting stemmed by a receiver and we need to be inside, we need to make sure that we maintain that inside leverage. Okay, and this is all it is we work the weave. Now, just like our stance, every weave is going to be a little bit different, but there should be a constant. It needs to look comfortable. Well, how is it going to be comfortable? They need to work on it. A couple things that you want to emphasize when doing this is that you want to make sure that outside foot, that they're really sticking it in the dirt and they're redirecting as quick as they can. Okay, you see Rian go here. He's actually gotten a lot better with it, but you can see how uncomfortable he looks doing it. Sometimes he's cracking his hip. Okay, it's just something that they need to continue to work on. There's only so much time in practice, right? So we can't always be spending the time doing this stuff, but you can tell who the guys are that are working on it on their own. So again, we'll go to the weave. We'll make sure that we get our leverage maintenance here. Again, the last guy needs to go. Coaches, you got to make sure that you give him the go call. Now we're coming back. Again, being able to give these players the feedback that you got from the first time they went through, encouraging them to stick their foot in the ground. You know, exaggerate this. Get them used to sticking that foot in the ground quickly and changing directions. Then once we get through that, then we move on to breaks. Okay, so we will always have a combination of 2 breaks for these guys. Okay, as a DB, rarely are you actually going to break just once. You're always going to be moving, you know, 2, 3 different directions on a play. You know, you might be playing man, you get stemmed. Well, you gotta weave. That's one movement. Well, now he breaks in, so now you got to break on that 45. You know, what if you get a double move? Well, now it's a third move. You got to stick in your ground and you got to get, you know, 180. Okay, so when we're doing these drills, we're encouraging them, okay, to break more than once. Again, the next person in line will handle the spin on the go call, and then he will handle the first break. This encourages our guys to get their eyes where they need to be. And then on the first break, they get their eyes to the coach, who will now tell them when to begin their next pedal. Once they pedal, you give them the direction they want to go. So here I've got them doing 135s. Again, everything's based off reactions, right? Never doing voice commands. Everything's off movements. Okay. First DB spins, begins his pedal, reacts to the person behind him. DB snaps his eyes to the next coach, waiting for the signal to begin his pedal, gets the signal. Now he's waiting to react based off of my movement on when to break 135. Again, it's all reaction, right? Training them to put their eyes where they need to put them and then react to what they're seeing. So once they do that, we'll bring them back. Now, instead of doing 135s, we're going to make them do 180s. Now, it doesn't have to be the same every time. You can change it up. One time we'll do 90s, 135s, then we'll do 90s, 180s, then we'll do 135s, 180s. You can change it up on them, right? You can change it up on them. But again, making sure the fundamentals of all of it is the same, right? The stance is the same. The balance is the same. That first step, it's the same. And the thing I forgot to mention is that it's this person's job, right? It's that next person in line. It's his job to point out, you know, if the person in front of him doesn't step properly, right? False steps, and he'll tell him to do it again. Okay. Again, fundamentals, eyes where they need to be. First step backwards, reacting. He breaks. Boom. Snap your eyes to the coach. React to the coach putting you in your pedal, and then react to the movement to break on the 180. Lastly, call this the big M. Okay, this encourages our guys, okay, to break multiple directions. Okay, making sure that we're getting our hips where they need to, eyes where they need to, okay, and making sure that we're violent, snapping out of our breaks. Start is the same, right? Just like we talk about, everything's the same, start's the same every time. Start is the same. Never turn your back to the ball. Stepping with that back foot first. Eyes where they need to be, on the coach. Looking for that signal to break. Boom. Right? Now we're breaking 45. Creating that M. Now we're bursting on that 135. Again, eyes where they need to be so that we can see the coach and react when we need to. Okay, and then on that last break, after they burst, get your hips around, and you want to make it crisp. Everything we do should be crisp. Every break we have should be crisp. So if you watch these guys here, boom, sharp 45. That 135, they're sticking their foot in the ground, they're getting 135. And then the moment coach gives the signal to bring them back, they're sticking their foot in the ground and they're getting their hips around. Again, nice and crisp. Nice and crisp. All right. Now we will get into some, whoops. There we go. Okay, guys. So when we talk about teaching, it's one of the greatest things about doing this. And it actually put a smile on my face when Coach said it. But I do love our guys. I love being in the classroom with them. I love hanging out with them on the field. It's a lot of fun, and nothing's more fun than when you see one of them. A light bulb goes off, and then you see it translate into the field. And when it comes to teaching players today, I know I've only been doing this 9 years now. Coach has got double that on me, triple that on me, and a lot of you have a lot more experience than that. But in the short time that I've been coaching, the change in the people, the change in the players, they have a short attention span, and then I blame cell phones, I blame social media, I blame all that crap. Because I feel like it hurts them, but it's something that we need to take into account when we're teaching them. We can't go on and on and on about things. We need to be concise with what we're saying. They all want to know why. They want to know why for everything. And you know what? Power to them. Power to them, because me having to explain why is making me a better coach, a better teacher. Right? With COVID, everything's got to be on Zoom. And kids are now becoming more and more visual learners. So we got to get better at making things more visual for them, so that they can see it, and understand it from looking at it, not just reading it, right? We all know looking at a picture is a lot different than reading words, right? So nowadays, more and more kids they're just more visual, because everything, cell phones, social media, everything is now just it's a visual, right? So we have to take that into account when teaching them. And Coach mentioned it before, but every player is different. One of the coolest things I did back in 2018, and I really wish I did it beforehand, was about right after training camp, I asked all my players for their notebooks. And I took their notebooks home and I read them. I went through them. And it was eye-opening for me, because it allows you into their brain, and you get to see, based on how they write, what they write, the order that they write, how their brain works. And now you're able to teach them differently. I've got one DB, Emmanuel, who his notebook, it's just random words everywhere, and you can see that he knows, but he doesn't know how to put together. And then I have another guy, Max, who's very literal, in everything, and his notebook is on every line, and it's word for word, verbatim, what we've been saying. Well, you can't teach Max like you can teach Emmanuel, and it's something that you need to take into account when we're teaching them football. So teaching coverages. First thing is you got to teach them the techniques that are involved in the coverages. Okay. And then when you teach them techniques, you can't just ask them to do it, right? Just like anything that we talked about today, you got to show them how. You got to make sure that the drill work that you do in practice is technique specific. We're not just out there covering receivers. No, today we're going to work clue. Today we're going to work hinge. Today we're going to work reroute, and this is the drill that we're going to do. Okay, but there should never be a time in individual when they're just out there running around. They should always know exactly what it is that is being asked of them and how it will translate to the field of play. Okay, and when we talk about teaching tools, again, they're all visual learners, right? They're not all visual learners. They are more visual learners nowadays. PowerPoints are great. Film is great. There's nothing worse than, as a player, sitting in on a meeting and coach telling you what to do, but you can't see it. So incorporating film into what you're asking them is so important. And again, it goes with kids being more and more visual these days. It's probably more important than ever to make sure that there is film. So how we teach the multiple coverages that Coach Colzie has us doing, well, it's actually pretty simple. Every coverage colors, every color, there's a technique involved. Okay, so this next slide, I'm gonna kind of teach you guys the way that I teach our guys the first couple coverages that we put in camp. Okay, so first color we're gonna learn is purple. Okay, now the techniques associated with purple for the corners are cluing, halfback, it's rerouting, free safety, it's show and going, and then our apex player, we're opening to 3. Okay, so anytime you hear purple, corner, you're cluing. Halfback, you're rerouting. Free safety, show and go. Apex player, you're opening to 3. Okay, then we have gray. Techniques associated with gray are hinge tech, 2 slides. Halfback, your technique's 2 to 1. Apex player, you're opening to 2 with responsibility on the tailback if he goes to the flats. Okay, so before even seeing anything drawn up, if you have to play gray coverage, corner, your technique is 2 slides. Halfback, your technique is 2 to 1. Apex player, you're opening to 2 with responsibility on the tailback if he goes to the flats. Third coverage, color, green. Now, corners in green, you've got hinge technique. Halfback, you've got clap technique. Free safety, show and going. It's actually the same technique that we just saw in purple. So it's even easier for him. And then our apex player, you're pushing 2. Okay, so what I just gave you guys was 3 coverages, right? And all the techniques that are involved with them. Again, it's important that these guys understand that all our calls will have coverages. All the coverages.
Can I just ask a question real quick?
Of course.
That last slide. Your 2 slides and your clap. Do you mind if I just ask what those, what those are?
2 slides is a technique we tell our corners to do in one of our match coverages. His eyes are essentially going to be on 2, and he's keying the release at 2. Our clap technique is the technique that we ask our halfbacks to do when they are doing a clue technique. Okay, so clap technique is when they're going deep thirds. 2 slides technique is when the corner is playing match or quarters. So again,
Marcus, real quick, coach. So Marcus, give you a heads up on it where when we're saying to our corner to get 2 slides, after his second slide, that means any coverages that are coming off, right? We don't have a change. You get what I'm saying? So if we're in the middle of our first slide or it's before our second slide, if 2 goes out, our corner will come off. Our safety will get over the top to go play number 1. But what we tell our corners is that after the second slide, don't come off, right? After the second slide, you're now going to stay with 1 half. You now have to stay with number 2. That makes sense? So like we say get 2 slides. 2 slides, no, there's no trade-off anymore, right? If something happened before that second slide, our corner's going to the new number going to number 2, half you must get over the top, right? So it's kind of a trade-off. But corners after our second slide, hey, don't come off. Don't come off, stay with your guy.
He's going with him, right? So that gives him that just gives him a hard set rule every time that he can go by.
And yeah, I mean you can only imagine how many times you would think that, on that quarters technique where you have 2 guys jumping on an out route and then now the other guy's wide open. So, in my opinion, I'd rather have 2 guys on the deep ball and then we can rally to that flat throw, right? As opposed to, so as a corner, we work 2 slides all the time. What does it mean? When do you come off? Hey, after your second slide, it's time to run. Just go ahead and you got number 1 for the down.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Sorry about that, Doug.
Thanks, coach. So again, three coverages, right? 3 coverages. Our players understand every call we have has its coverage rules, right? Every coverage has got colors, and then every color has techniques that are associated with it. Okay, so first example, we've got slice. Okay, so slice in our slice play call, our coverage rules are we're playing purple to 3 and gray to 2 receivers. Okay, so based on the information that we just gave you, right, and the techniques associated with it, this is what it would look like. So again, the 3 receivers, they're playing purple while the corner's got his clue technique, right? The field half's got his reroute technique, free safety show and going. Our apex player, our star there, he's opening to 3. And then to the 2 side, we've got gray coverage, corners, 2 slides technique. Our boundary half is 2-to-1 technique. And then our money, our apex player, right? He's opening to 2 with tailback responsibility to the flats. Okay, now we talked about earlier, our DBs do all the adjusting in our defense. So if a team comes out 23, okay, our free safety is just going to adjust. He's going to make the coverage call that we need to. Again, coverage rules, right? Purple to 3 receivers. In slice, we're playing purple to 3 receivers. Corners cluing, boundary halves rerouting, free safety show and going, apex players opening to 3. Graded 2 receivers. Okay, again, just giving them the techniques associated with the colors and then the colors associated with the calls, right? They know the coverage rules and they can apply it. Then we've got our next call. We've got mix call. So before we gave them the play calls, we already gave them the colors. Well, in mix, you guys are going to be playing green coverage to 3 receivers and gray coverage to 2. Well, when we installed slice, right? When we put slice in, we already put in gray. So now mix should be pretty easy for them, right? Mix should be pretty easy for them. All they now need to know is that instead of playing purple to 3 like we do in slice, they're playing green to 3. Well, in green, what are we supposed to do? Corners hinging, right? Our field half is cluing. Sorry, I should say clapping, right? Our free safety show and going, right? And then we've got our star pushing to 2 and our Mac pushing to 3. But what's easy about this is that we've already talked about gray coverage, right? So they already know it. Okay, third coverage. Then we've got our trap. Okay, trap coverage. It's green to 3, purple to 2. So our third coverage of the day is 2 colors that we've already talked about. So really, it should be very easy for them to understand it. But to the offense, right, we're looking very multiple. Okay, and the reason why I love, and I will, until I see something better, I will always teach coverages this way. But it allows for us to make adjustments. It makes it very easy. Okay, so for example, if an opponent of ours has shown 5R on film all week, right, and all of a sudden we get into the game and they throw a little 2-back personnel on us, we can adjust simply by giving them colors, right? Because they already know the techniques involved. They already know how to play the coverages. Simply by saying, hey guys, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna plug to the H-back. Okay, all that means is we're gonna play green to 3, gray to 2. Okay, but we're not gonna count the H-back as a receiver. So now we get 2 receivers to both sides. We got gray and gray. Our free safety plugs the H-back and we're good to go. Right? We didn't see it all week in film. Now all of a sudden in the game we do it. It makes it very easy for them. They get it. Nothing changes for the apex players. They're still opening to 2 with responsibility on the tailback to the flats. Halfbacks are still doing 2-to-1. Corners, 2 slidings. It's very easy. Well, what if they do 30-31? Well, again, what was the rules? Green to 3, gray to 2. Well, they created a 31 formation. So we'll play green over there, you know, and then backside we'll have whatever we're doing backside that week. Okay, but the whole purpose of this is just if you install it that way, right? If they know why. Coach, why do we got to learn these colors? Well, because it makes it a little bit easier in the long run for you. Okay, but over the course of the last 10 minutes, we were able to learn 4 different coverages, right? With different rules. And now when you think about it, if you're able to teach these guys the techniques associated with the colors, okay, it makes it very easy for us to put in new coverages. Right now adding those coverages becomes easy. The later we get in the season, we can start mixing and matching different colors based on what our opponents are doing, right? And now all of a sudden it makes it look like we're doing something different, but really to our guys, it's the same things. Okay, so again, for learning our coverages, it's so important that they know the techniques associated with the colors, right? Teach it that way. And let them know why they're learning it that way. The best question I got is, Coach, why do we do it this way? Why don't you call it hold? Why don't you call it cut? This and that. Well, we do it this way, right? So that when we do need to adjust what we're doing on the back end to what our opponents are doing, our DBs aren't left scrambling, trying to learn new things. All they have to understand is that new play call name is associated with these 2 colors, and they already know the techniques involved with both of those. Okay, and like I said, endless possibilities for what we're able to do. Real quick, I'm going to talk about Psycho and Tiger a bit, and this is one of the things that makes my job as a DB coach very easy. And I fell in love with it when I got here. But the more guys we can get involved in the game, the better. The more attention you'll get from them in the meeting room. The more questions you're going to get asked. I love getting asked questions. I do, because it means they're trying. Now, there's those guys that just ask questions to ask questions. But for the most part, when you get a question from a kid at this level, he's trying. So again, Psycho Tiger, more defensive backs on the field. I take pride in having 7 guys out there. I do. When we need to get off the field on 2nd and long, there's more of us than there is linebackers. There's more of us than there is defensive line. And our room takes pride in that. And we look forward to that. Coach mentioned earlier, we want our best 12 on the field for the situation. Again, we want our best cover guys out there. 2nd and long, they're going to throw the ball. We want the guys that are going to run. Okay? So why the DBs? Yeah, because they can run. They can run. They're used to covering. They're probably faster. And the other thing that I like about Psycho and Tiger is it allows those younger players to gain experience. You get those young athletic kids some playing time, but you're giving them a limited role, right? Hey, this is the package you need to know this week. It's only for 2nd and long. So now instead of having to know, the 12 different coverages we're doing with the pressures and this and that, hey, now you need to focus on these 6 play calls for this week. And by the way, you're playing man in 4 of them. You make it real easy on them so that they can go out there and do what, why you brought them in to do. Be the athletes that they are, without having to slow them down with making them think about a lot. So again, one of the reasons why I fell in love with that is just because it gets our young players in the game and, getting them the experience that they need to be able to feel comfortable on the field when they move into their 2nd or their 3rd year. So real quick, Psycho and Tiger, again, these 7, they're all DBs. And it's a lot of fun. We can have a lot of fun with it. Sometimes we'll blitz this guy. Sometimes we'll blitz this guy. Possibilities are endless. We got guys that can run. We got guys that can get after it. We take advantage of it, and it's a lot of fun. Back to what we said earlier, our DBs handle all the adjustments. We bring them over. Psycho and Tiger, we want our guys that can cover, right, to cover the guys that can run. So we'll have our DBs do all the adjustments. And then, like I said earlier, guys, you get more of those young guys on those young, fast athletes on the field, while asking them to do limited things. And it's a lot of fun to see them, in their 1st year, in their 2nd year, going out there and they get to make a play or 2 and contribute to the success of the team. And that would be all I have for today. Coach?
I didn't know we were doing all that, Dubs. When the hell did you start putting all that stuff in?
My mind just started going earlier today. And
You know, I will say this, man. I know that you know, it's a great recruiting tool for us, especially with some of those packages. You know, we have that motto where, you know, I like to get next year's team ready this year, and having guys understand their role, understand getting them ready for what's about to come. And you know, I don't want a second or third year guy never to have played snaps for us and then ask him to all of a sudden be a starter for us and play 70 to 75 snaps. So, you know, some of the stuff that we do is, again, stuff that I've done at previous places, you know, and it's, like I said, it's a great recruiting tool. Every high school player feels they should play or know they should play or want to play. So for us, it's just giving you, hey, look, man, you can play early for us. We're going to put you into this psycho savage package. You know, hey, you know, it's fun sometimes during the games when the defense knows when we're going to go psycho before I even call it. And guys they're hyped up, they're ready to go on the field, and we put 7 linebackers out there, 7 DBs, and they go out there and there's 2 first-year guys, and they're gaining valuable experience in some quality time, and then once you get them going for the second or third year, they're ready to go. They've got the game experience, they've earned our trust, and we have the opportunity to get a chance to play and get them in there immediately or earlier than maybe if they were playing corner or playing boundary corner, right? We give them the opportunity to get themselves ready and get them valuable experience to play. So, Marcus, there you go. A little bit about what we're doing. I made sure Coach Dubs didn't give y'all everything, but he gave you quite a bit. And if you got any questions, by all means, we're ready to answer.
Again, guys, man, you know, there's no secret why you guys have a top defensive core in the U year in, year out. You know, I heard it from plenty of guys. I've heard it from Max. You know, I've heard it from guys that this is just next level stuff, man. And again, I want to thank you for keeping the tradition alive at SMU. You know, thank you. You know, I'll hopefully we'll be seeing each other a lot more in the U, maybe in some UTech Bowls, Mitchell Bowls, or some Vanier Cups, hopefully.
Same here.
But you know, guys, again, the pedigree out there it's on another level. I've come out to see, you know, a handful of games, and every time I'm out there, I'm like, man, like the DBs are on lock. So, guys, I'm taking notes. I couldn't write as fast as I wanted to, so it was great. Coach Dubs, great stuff, man. And a lot of things I like, guys. It's the little stuff. It's just the fundamentals, the basics, getting guys going, and not asking them to do too much before they have that base under them. You know, and that's key. You know, and a lot of times we could throw a lot of stuff at DBs, but if they don't got the fundamentals, the first 2 steps, first 3 steps, being able to change direction, it you know, takes everything away. You know, it doesn't matter what you're doing at that point, you're going to get beat. So, guys, is there any questions that we got for Coach Dubs or Coach Colzie? Coach Duke?
Yeah, Coach. Coaches, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm curious about what your progression is for teaching new DBs coverages. Do you start with like film and then get them on the field, and then do you do like what their triggers are, what the rules are? How do you go about teaching coverages?
Go ahead, Coach Dubs.
So basically day one, you know, we'll get them out there, and we have the luxury of having captain's practices. So normally the guys coming into their first year will have already been on the field with the vets for a couple of days. So I have the luxury of them coming in and knowing, you know, the fundamentals that I'm going to be talking about. So I guess to answer your question, the progression is that we stick those young guys, those first year guys with the vets, right? So that the vets can teach them what they know about the things that we're going to talk about our first couple of days. And then once I finally get them on day one, you know, they're a little bit up to speed with what I'm talking about, you know? And then as far as that day one goes, I'm very slow very patient. You know, as much as Coach Colzie likes to put in a ton of stuff, you know, day one, a ton of stuff, day two, you know, I do take it slow with them. I do, you know, and I think the thing for me is I do take the time with those first year guys if they do have questions. You know, it's there's not a lot of time in meetings, you know, and there's never enough time in meetings. So I give them my number right away. They have it. Call me. I don't care what time it is. We can talk about it. You know, but when it comes to installing the stuff and telling them, you know, what is needed, you know, I have to remember that I'm not just coaching first year guys. I'm also coaching, you know, vets. So I got to get information to them to make sure that they're not falling behind as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another follow-up, I guess, what's your prioritization for like what coverages come in first, second, third? Like, do you have a preference for split field, single high, put in spot and then match, or just jump right into match, or what's your approach?
Coach?
Well, I think, you know, we have our base coverages, right? So, you know, I heard you mention also the trigger words and things of that nature. So we have our base coverages. You know, we're a zone team, right? I would say to the core. We do play a lot of man, but what you saw today with us being in a thirds and then a quarters, this is kind of our base, you know. So, you know, we will start with our Panther defense. That is our base defense. We'll mix in some 40 stuff and do our basic coverages out of that. And before we move forward, you know, I know Coach Dub said we've put a lot of stuff in, which we do, but before we move forward, we got to make sure we have done the initial stuff early. I mean, we've done the initial stuff already, right? So we're already in our second week of practice. We haven't even talked about Psycho. We haven't even talked about Savage with our players. We're just strictly basing our base coverages. We do have a pressure in where we'll run that. So, you know, but as far as the trigger words go, like our NFL teams, Steelers and Cowboys, our guys, when they hear that, they know that's zero pressure, right? And when they hear Outkast, Method Man, Snoop Dogg, all the rappers, they know we're trapping. You know what I mean? So we have our trigger words where once you hear it, you automatically know what it means, and then there's a specific technique for that. You know, as Coach mentioned, like when we're running our coverages, so we're running a hinge. So if I'm a corner and we're running a coverage that involves hinge, they immediately know, yes, I'm doing hinge. This guy's doing a clap. This guy's doing a show and go. So Coach Dubs is out there. Hey, Coach Colzie, take the corners, work the hinge. He's going to work reroute. The other guy's going to work show and go. So they know the specific techniques based on the coverage, and they already know the drill that we're going to work and what we're going to do with it. So those trigger words, those colors are what they see. They hear gray, technique, technique, technique. Let's do it. Let's work it. So then we can now combine all of those techniques for that specific coverage.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
No problem, boss.
All right. Any other questions, guys?
I just have a quick one. How did you guys get to the color coding? Did you guys take a couple steps and try out a couple other ways of doing the coverages and then work your way towards the color system?
Well, long story short, I've been doing colors since 2007. And, you know, and now as a group, we've changed some of the colors to make stuff easier. And to make it where some of the guys made suggestions, right? So it's kind of been a long time going, right? Where based on coverages, what colors we wanted to use. But I mean, ultimately, when you hear a color, yeah, we're in a coverage. Now, do you know what garnet means? Are you going to know what maroon means? Are you going to know what red means? Are you going to know what black means? By the time you figure that out, game's over. You know what I mean? But we do have colors for that. We have, like I said, we try to make sure that the trigger words that we use or that we give can click for those guys. So all they got to think about, they hear it, they know exactly what it means, they know exactly what techniques they have. But to be honest, we've been using colors, like I would say, since I was at Valdosta State, and it's just been fine-tuning. And I mean, we're still fine-tuning on not just on the coverages, but on some of the other things that we do defensively.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, it was offensive guys, offensive coaches. Anything there? You guys good? You know, you got some offensive coaches in here, Coach Colzie. They need to know
Hey,
how the
one of
defensive guys want it.
one of my buddies who's been in the NCAA for like the last 15 years. He's been a coordinator. He's a coordinator at Southern Miss. He was a coordinator at FAU, and he just got hired. You know, as you guys know, NCAA got so much money, right? He just got hired to be at South Alabama to work on the offensive side to help the offensive coaches figure out how to beat certain defenses. You know what I mean? So he's been a defensive coordinator, the offensive side, paying him six figures just to sit there and say, okay, how do you beat this defense? Right. And you know, and he says it's the best job he's ever had because now he's learning more about offense. You know what I mean? Now he's learning how to beat some of these offenses because he's sitting in an offensive room. And so, you know, it's amazing what they're doing, you know, how they're figuring it out. And you know, you want to learn offense. Well, go on the offensive side and learn. You want to learn defense, go spend some time on the defensive side. You know, when I get a chance to go visit a lot of the universities, I know the defense. I'm at that university because I know the defensive coordinator or I know the defensive back coach. So when I go visit those schools, I don't need to talk to the DC. Hell, I already know you. I try to spend as much time as I can with the OC just to kind of get his vision, see what he's talking about, see the things that he sees. You know, so it's always great to go on the other side and pick their brain. You know, I'm a firm believer that if you got 12, the perfect pass always beats. The perfect pass always beats the perfect defense. It's an offensive game. It's always great to figure out what the offensive side is doing, and that'll definitely help you defensively.
True.
I can say I'm sitting here busy being mind blown, just trying to assimilate. It was a lot more information than I was expecting, and it came fast. So I'm still stuck back on 2 slides and clap and clue. And
well, you know, I think and so now you can, you know, we often, especially at the defensive back position, right? You know, we hear a corner, you know, hey, I'm coming in. I want to come in and start. Okay, all right, well, okay, that's great. You know, we want you to come in and start also, right? But you know, hey, well, do you know what the hinge technique is? Coach, I don't know what it is. Well, this is what you need to do just for this coverage alone. You know, and again, we talked about it, I guess, earlier in the presentation. We're all about confusing the quarterback, confusing the center, right? We have multiple coverages, but as Coach Dubs mentioned, you know, it's easy to go from gray to white, red to gray on the sidelines. It's easy. Like, we're going to run red to this. We're going to run white to this. We're going to run brown to this. It's easy to go through because guys know in brown their position, their technique. They know the coverage. So it's easy to make adjustments on the run. It's easy to make adjustments on the sideline. And that's helped us, right? That's helped us kind of get what we want. You know, I can't mention how many times, you know, offenses have thrown for under 150 yards and hitting DBs in the chest because we've just confused them, or they just kind of gave up, or whatever the case may be now. So I think on the back end, I love what we do. I love how our guys have kind of gotten used to the trigger words and understand the techniques. And, you know, there isn't a practice where we're working our ABCs. You know, we stress that. And you know, if you notice on some of the videos, some of the guys' legs were hurting because we keep them in a stance. We want them in the proper stance. We gotta have that muscle memory, right? Those guys work their tails off. They work hard, and Coach Dubs pushes them to the limit. But, you know, I mean, you guys know on the back end, that's how you get beat, right? If you're not solid on the back end, you're giving up all these deep touchdowns and all these things like that, you'll get beat. So we as a former DB, I put a lot of pressure on the defensive backs, right? So because I had to play with a lot of pressure as a defensive back, so I know if I can handle it, the guys that we have can handle it. And you know, and we have that saying, man, like, hey, you know, if we don't have a good game, we'll get beat. So we take that pressure, we take that motto into every single game that we play, that we have to play great. We have to play great every single night to make sure that we have an opportunity to win some football games. And for the most part, I think we've done a very, very good job over the last 4 years ensuring that, or at least giving us an opportunity to do so.
Absolutely, coach. DB's got to be the best team on the squad. It's just what it has to be.
But we have to be. We don't have a choice, right? We don't have a choice.
That's it. Question for you guys, though. You're doing a lot of footwork drills and obviously reaction drills. Do you put a lot of more priority on that than, let's say ball skills in the sense of like, catching balls, trying to, go up and get balls? Are you putting more emphasis on the footwork, the reaction, than it is, catching every ball and making sure, guys are catching? Because I know some teams I've gone to, like, they're just catching balls, but they're not really working on footwork. And they just, we don't want to drop any picks, but it seems like, just came from this. You guys are focused a lot more on the technique, the footwork, those things.
Well, I will say this. I know that, Coach Dubs couldn't show you everything that we do on our ABC stuff, but once we get done with ABCs and once we get done with that big M, myself and Coach Dubs, we're grabbing balls and then we're working ball drills. You know what I mean? So, I don't think there's a day we don't just do ABCs. We're always talking about balls. We're talking about getting tip balls. We're talking about bending our knees to get interceptions. So, I think it goes hand in hand. I know we put an emphasis on both, right? Do we get that much time? Not necessarily, but right. If there's special teams going on and Coach Dubs is handling the special teams, I'm grabbing balls. Hey, DBs, let's go. Let's get some catches, whether they're coming at me, whether they're coming at me and they're breaking, whether we're working on catching the low, catching the high. So, I think it might not necessarily be during ABCs, but we're definitely catching balls. And whenever we find time, I will say this. We don't, if we have idle time in practice, there's balls coming at somebody's head, right? We want to make sure that they're getting catches. We want to make sure that we're working on that, because nothing is more disappointing to me, right? Where a guy's gotten himself in the right stance. He's made a great break, right? He's in a good stance, had a great pedal. He's made a great break, and then he drops it, right? Though that's something for us where, we didn't catch enough. We didn't work on it enough, right? So, if we're going to work our tails off to get in position and get ourselves in the proper position to catch the ball, well, damn it, catch the ball, right? I mean, they don't pay us for broken passes. They pay us to pick it, to get the interception and take it to the house. So that's what we strive on, and that's how we make our money. That's how we make the plays. That's how we become all conference. That's how we become all Canadians, right? And so we work our tails in the ABC aspect, but I think we work ourselves also trying to catch the balls. So hopefully I answered your question. I think we take great pride in trying to do both as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Because it was just, find the time, no idle time. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, Coach Dubs takes them out. We call them early outs, right? And Coach Dubs also coaches our special teams, and so there's times when he's doing early outs, has to be out there for the special teams. I'm throwing balls. I'm throwing knuckle balls. I'm throwing high balls. I'm throwing low balls. You know what I mean? Just to ensure we're trying to work every single catch. Then Coach Dubs is doing ABCs. Does the ABCs, back pedals, stem, working the weave, working the transitions. Then we're right back into catching balls again, right? So, very, very rarely are our DBs not doing anything DB related, right, every single day, right? And if I don't feel we've caught enough balls, then guess what we're doing first and early outs? We're catching balls. And so I think Coach Dubs does a great job of making sure we try to have that balance, you know what I mean? But I can rest assured that if our stances are right, well, we're going to work on stances until we get that right. Because if we don't start right, it's really, really hard to end right.
All right, guys. Anything else for coaches? They're an hour ahead of us, so we don't want to keep them up till midnight.
All right, good. Hey, you got two guys that don't sleep. We're in football right now. We've been begging to stay up late. We've been begging to stay up late.
Coach, you guys are allowed to put helmets on. I told you guys.
We're practicing. We're practicing. We're practicing right now. We're practicing right now.
Full 2 a days. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah. We're good, man. It's all good. I had to play a little corner a couple days ago because we were banged up. I don't have it anymore. I ain't gonna lie. I could play a lot of zone right now, but if you ask me to play any type of man, that sucker's gonna be wide open. Anything vertical, I'm done. So I made a lot of calls a couple days ago. We just play a lot of zone. We're gonna keep it in front. Don't get me deep. And then after that, after 3 plays, my hamstring started acting up, so I had to get Coach Dubs in there. And he moves around a lot better than I do right now. So, but other than that, it's been great having a chance to meet, right? And having a chance to be on the field and trying to having a chance, honestly, just to get better, right? We have a pretty young group, and we'll be ready to go once the season goes, obviously. But it's been good watching them mature. It's been good watching them get better. It's been good watching them get stronger because we're able to do everything, right? So we're slowly but surely trying to catch up to you guys in the Ontario League, right? So we've been stealing days and slowly but surely trying to catch up to what you guys are doing in Ontario. So to be honest, we're hoping that you guys don't start playing until October. That's really what we're feeling. I mean, hopefully we hope you guys don't get a chance to play until the day before the UTEC Bowl. That's really what we're shooting for, right? And we still might need a few more days after that. But other than that, right, it's been great to have the guys on the field, so it's been great to watch the guys mature like they've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been great, guys, and you got another one in Josh Long. He should be a great one for you.
Yeah.
He works his tail off, man. I mean, he's a worker, so I can't wait to see what you guys are able to make out of him. And he's humble. He's a little quiet, but he's fierce. When you get him on the field, he is fierce, and can't wait.
Good.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
So far you're 1 for 1 with Max. Max is a dude. Mm-hmm. Right now he's starting for us. He's training hard, and man, he's an engineering student. He's 3.8, taking 5 classes, gets on the field. He doesn't forget anything. Max is going to be, and unless he graduates sooner than we think, right? I mean, because he's taking 10 classes a year. Max will be really, really good for us, and he's already good for us now.
Absolutely. Well, that's Coach Maltby there on the call. He's had a lot to play with that as well.
Gotcha.
So, you got to thank him. He's my DB coach. So
good. Okay.
He's my guy. So, and Josh is with him too. Yeah. And he still keeps the cleats on. So, you know what, if you need a reclassification, you might get this guy for 1 or 2 more reps.
As long as we might need to, so I don't have my ass out there playing corner like I had to do a couple days ago. I might need it. Honestly, let me know.
Anyone else, guys, that wanted to chime in? These guys? Well, guys, Coach Dubs, Coach Colzie, man, keep doing your thing at SMU. It's even though I'm at Waterloo, I'm always going to be, secretly cheering for you guys, right?
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
I'm gonna give my phone number, guys. I'm gonna put my email here on the chat here, guys. Man, listen, by all means, man, you guys can reach me at any time. I love doing this, love talking ball, and my phone number, my email is there as well. Just don't call me late. Don't get me in trouble. Other than that, just call me at any time, email me at any time. We love doing this. This is what it's all about: growth, learning, getting better, and like I said, man, we can fellowship at any time.
Yeah, building communities, building football, right? Just sharing ideas. I think this is really great for the community, considering we're not really able to be out as much as we wanted to in the last year. Out with the players, and we can at least grow ourselves as coaches in the community. So I love it, guys, and thank you very much for everyone who showed up. And we'll be doing our last one in April 10th, and hopefully we can even bring Coach Dubs back, get a few more colors, and we'll be bringing back likely Coach Mike McDonald as well to do some more inside zone, more in depth.
I'm putting my Marcus. I sent it to you. I didn't send it to everybody else. Let me put it in. My bad. I realized I just sent it to you. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. That's me. Anytime, guys. Anytime. Trust me. Anytime, man. There's never not a time to talk football.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It's great.
Let me know if I can help anybody. Okay, guys. Hey, thank you, Dino. Thank you, Marcus. Thanks, guys. I appreciate this. This was awesome.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for taking the late hours. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.